What's up, guys? You know what time it is. Welcome back to Inside Out Precision. Today we are going to review the twin turbo from Hoyt. So if you're familiar with Hoyt, last year the RX4 turbo was the same bow as the RX3 turbo. They did not change anything on it. This year they've reinvented the beast. It's got a new cam system, a little bit different riser design, some different specs. So we're gonna get into all that, but before that I want to clear up a couple things. So if you followed the channel, you know that last week I posted the RX7 review. I ended up taking that review down, and it's not because of the concerns that I expressed in that video with how that specific bow was tuning. It was actually, the main reason I took it down was because in that video I mentioned the person that we were doing a bow giveaway to. So we have a very gracious customer of ours who purchased an RX7 and said, hey, I want you guys to give this, full setup to somebody in need. So Lisa, had a big thing on Instagram where people were nominating people, and we ended up choosing a winner. I didn't know that he didn't know he had won. So his coworkers nominated him without him knowing. And when we chose him, they did not tell him. It was going to be a surprise, and he had not received the bow yet. In the video, I was very specific. If he saw that video, there would be no surprise, because it's a guy from Colorado. He works at a firehouse. He's had a rough time of things, and I know he follows the channel. I know he follows our the shop's Instagram. So I didn't want to blow the surprise before he got the bow. So I took the video down. He has since got the bow back. I am going to repost the video, although I am going to make some edits, and the edits that I'm going to make, and I'm still going to mention it, but so like I mentioned, or if you saw the video, you saw that I had some concerns over how that bow was tuning. We could not get the tail right tear out of it, no matter what we did. We moved the rest all the way left, shimmed the cams all the way to the right. At the 26.5-inch draw length that it needed to be for that gentleman, it would not tune. We tried all different spined arrows. Something was up with that bow. Then we lengthened it out to 29, and it actually shot tail left, even with the correct spine arrow and everything. So that particular bow, there was something wrong with, and that happens in every brand. You can get a lemon in anything, whether it's a shotgun or a car or a bow or whatever. Hoyt's working their tails off right now trying to get all this stuff out the door. It could have just been a bad limb. We did swap the limbs after we made that video, and we'd had some issues, but Hoyt, we reached out to Hoyt. They said, yeah, something's funky there, send us that bow back. We'll have the engineers take a look at it. We have not had an issue with any other RX7 since that bow. It's a 1 in a million thing, and I think I scared a lot of people and made it sound like don't buy this bow because it doesn't tune, even though in the video I mentioned this is probably just a one-off thing. Like, we've sold Hoyts for years and we've never had an issue with them. They got some of the most dependable limbs on the market. Very rarely do you see any sort of manufactured defect with them. They're top-notch equipment. So anyway, I jumped the gun a little bit on that statement. I don't want people making a judgment or a canceling orders for the RX7 because of that video. So it's an issue with that particular bow. We addressed it, and I'm going to edit a part of that video and make it sound not so scary, because it's not that big of a deal. Like I said, it's a one-off thing. So anyway, I wanted to clear that up before today's video. I wasn't getting yelled at by Hoyt to take it down. I try to be really honest in these reviews. If I'm not sponsored by anybody, so nobody's holding my feet to the fire on this. These are just things that I see, and if I have a concern with something, I express that. Like I said, I jumped the gun a little bit on that. I think after seeing some messages from people that were kind of dealing with the same thing, not to that extent, but kind of that same thing, I thought, oh man, this bow, people are having trouble tuning this, and who knows what they're shooting. They could be shooting the wrong spine arrow. Their grip could be funky. These Hoyts are sensitive to the grip. If you get too much palm in it, they're going to shoot tail right every time. So anyway, that's that. Sorry for the boring start here. Let's get into the specs on this bow. So like I said, this is the twin turbo from Hoyt. Spec wise, it's 33 inches axle to axle, has a 5 7/8 inch brace height, which is pretty standard for any sort of speed bow. It's actually a little bit longer. Most are like a 5.5 inch brace height or 5 1/4. It IBOs at 350 feet a second. You can get it 30 to 70 pound peak weight. So I think I think you can get it in a 40 pound peak weight that will go down to 30, and then, the 70 pound limbs obviously max at 70. They do not offer this in an 80 pound limb option. So we get asked all the time, they're like, well, can't they just put on 80 pound RX-7 limbs and do it? It's like, no, they're different length. The deflections are different. Everything's different about the limbs. You can't just swap limbs around on bows and expect them to shoot well. So save your pro shop a headache. Don't bug them about getting an 80 pound turbo. Hoyt is not going to build it for you. Unless you're Cam Haynes and have, 2 million followers on Instagram and sponsored by Hoyt, they're not going to take time out of their day to build you a special bow. But should be able to get really good speed at 70 pounds. I was incredibly impressed with the speeds on the RX-7, like very impressed. I would guess that this is rated 10 feet a second faster. I'm going to assume it's probably going to shoot about 10 feet a second faster through the chronograph with all the same arrows. So a couple things that are different on this bow than the RX-7s. If you notice, so it doesn't have the new kind of like streamlined single piece riser. It still has kind of this bridged tubing here. Resembles more like the RX-5 and the RX-4 a little bit. They do have a new cam. So this is called the HBX TT, so the twin turbo cam. You can see, let's try to get this thing out of the vise here. You can see that it has a little more of an aggressive shape to it. And that's obviously because this is a speed bow. That speed does not come for free. So yeah, you got to make a little more aggressive cam. With that cam design, it does draw a little bit stiffer. It actually is really smooth till just that last like 3 inches, and then it stacks up pretty good. This is actually a left-handed bow, so I've been able to play with this and shoot it. And at first, like compared to the bows that I shoot, yeah, it draws pretty stiff, and that stack at the end, I was like, ugh, I don't really know if I like that. But after I shot 20 arrows through it, your body kind of gets used to that draw cycle, and I didn't even think about it again. Like I said, speed doesn't come for free, so obviously a faster bow, generally speaking, you're going to have a little bit stiffer draw cycle on it. It'll go from 25 to 30 inches in draw length. It has the module system just like the HBX Pro Cam. The longer module goes from 30 to 28 and a half, and then the shorter one will go from 28 down to 25 and a half. If I had to guess, I would say that most of the people buying this bow are gonna have shorter draw lengths. They're probably gonna be 27 inches and under. In my opinion, and again, this is just totally personal preference here, but if I'm 28 and a half, 29, 30 inches, that extra 8, 10 feet a second, for me, like you're still gonna get good speed at those draw lengths with just the standard RX-7. For me, it's not worth the shorter brace height and the stiffer draw cycle just for an extra, 8 feet a second. But for guys that with a shorter draw length that still want to shoot, a little bit heavier arrow, every little bit helps. So I think it's going to be a really popular bow with the people with a little bit shorter draw length. One thing it does not have, so it doesn't have the new grip. So this is the same grip that was on like the RX-5 and the RX-4. It's not lowered. They didn't lower the angle on it like they did on the RX-7 this year. It also doesn't have the Picatinny rail mount, which I thought was interesting. So everything's gonna mount to this bow just like any other bow in the last, pre-2020, which is not that big of a deal. I mean, it is what it is. You do have the lower, little nubby stabilizer here and the mount here, and it will accept the SL side bracket on the side here if you want to put on the side bracket quiver and not mount it from or side bracket back bar and not mount it from the front here. Comes in at 4.5 pounds, so pretty much right on par with every carbon bow. Little bit heavier than the RX-7 for sure. It's closer to like what the Ultra weighs, but not heavy by any means. You've still got the roller guards here. It's a sweet bow. So shooting it, I talked about the draw cycle. On the shot, it's really, really smooth. The draw cycle is stiff, but there's not, like, it doesn't jump out of your hand. There's not like a lot of vibration or anything. It actually felt really, really similar to just the standard RX-7, which is awesome. The other speed bows on the market right now, like the PSE Levitate, it is fast, but it's so light and that cam is so aggressive, like you feel it on the shot. It's got a pretty good little thump when you shoot it. This bow does not have that. So definitely smooth, it's quiet. You know, maybe if you put it on like a decibel reader, it might be a little bit louder than the RX-7, but just listening to it, you know, as someone standing there watching you shoot, I don't really hear much of a difference. So it's quiet, it's smooth on the shot, and it's fast. I mean, that's gonna be pretty popular with a lot of people. Yeah, other than that, you know, not a whole lot different with it. Like I said, the new cam system is pretty much what you're getting with this bow. Other than that, you know, it's fairly similar to the RX5 turbo. Well, actually, last year they didn't even do a turbo. It was the RX. Last year, the RX. Okay, so the RX3 turbo and the RX4 turbo were the same bow. And last year they didn't do a new turbo. If you wanted a turbo, you just got the RX4 turbo. So, you know, like I said, they kind of reinvented it a little bit, and I think it's a cool bow. I'm excited to see what it does speed-wise. Like I said, I would expect it to be about 8 or 10 feet a second faster. So I'm gonna get that chronograph set up. As usual, we're gonna do 30 inches, 70 pounds, with arrows going from 511 down to, what is it, like 360. And then we're gonna do the same arrows, but at 28 inches. So, gonna get that chronograph set up, but before I do want to mention, if you head over to InsideOutPrecision.com right now, we got a bunch of new merch on there. If you go to the shop section and then click new, it will bring up all the new stuff on the page, and then we still have all the old stuff we had too. So get on there, see what's in stock. A lot of the colors are hard to get right now with the supply chain shortages, but I know there's at least a couple colors available in pretty much everything in the store. So we really appreciate all the support. Like I always say, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you shoot good. So it's really a win-win. But enough of my shameless plug. I'm gonna go get that chrono set up and we'll see what this puppy can do. Okay, so got the chronograph set up here. As usual, this is gonna be 30 inches, 70 pounds. I got arrows ranging from 511 down to 360. I'm expecting some pretty crazy speeds out of this, and yeah, I'm glad I get to pull this thing left-handed and not right-handed, because I'm not sure I'd want to shoot 10 arrows right-handed with the turbo cam. So yeah, we're gonna see what this is gonna do. Get this thing turned on here. Come on. There we go. All right. So this first arrow is 511 grains. I'm thinking high 280s, low 290s. You know, it's really not that bad of a draw. Like, it's got a little stack right at the end. 294. That is cooking for a 500 plus grain arrow. I mean, that's insane speed. That's gonna hit really hard. So this next arrow is 480. This would be a really common hunting weight for a, you know, a bow at 30 inches. Oh yeah, it's just that last little bit right there. 296, so it didn't drop much at all, so it's efficient. Or didn't raise much at all. All right, this is 440. 445 actually. 305. All right, this is a 407 grain arrow. $319. And then here's a 360 grain arrow. This thing's gonna scream. Ooh, that's short. 334. I'd have to go look at the RX-7 videos. It's definitely faster with the heavier arrows, but with the lighter arrows, honestly, the standard RX-7 I think was pretty dang close to those exact speeds. Like I said, seems like they're within just a few feet a second of each other. I'm a little surprised at that. I actually thought that this would be faster. I mean, it's not slow by any means. It's definitely heavy with that fast arrow, but it seems like with the lighter arrows, it didn't really do a whole lot more. The draw cycle, like I said, is it stacks like it feels like it's just gonna dump into the back wall, and then it stacks a little bit and then goes over. I think once you got used to it, you wouldn't really have any issues with it. But yeah, I'm gonna put this down to 28 now, and we'll shoot those same arrows and see what the speeds are. Okay, so got the 28-inch mods on there. The 30-inch mod will only go down to 28.5, so if you wanna go below that, you have to put the shorter mod on. I'm actually kind of curious if it's like last year's where 28 actually shot faster than 28.5 because it's at the longest setting of the short mod as opposed to the shortest setting of the long mod. But anyway, I've got it set to 28, and we will see what this can do. So again, 70 pounds, first arrow is gonna be 511 grains. And I dropped all the arrows. Ooh, draws a lot easier at 28. 362. Okay, this is 480 grains. So much easier at 28. 364, so that's interesting. Both at 30 inches and at 28 inches, there was only a 2 foot a second difference between 511 and 480. I like that it's efficient with the heavier arrow, but it's kind of curious to me and interesting that it doesn't pick up like more speed with the lighter arrow. All right, this is a 440 grain arrow. 279, so basically 280. 410 grain arrow. $293, and now the speed burner 360 grain. $306. Like I said, I was expecting higher speeds with those lighter arrows. I'm not really sure if that's just in the cam design. I mean, what was it, 335 or 334 at 30 inches? I mean, it's rated at 350. Granted, that arrow is, you know, 10 grains heavier than the IBO spec, but 10 grains is usually only a couple feet a second. I mean, between 511 and 480, it was only 2 feet a second. So I can't imagine that 10 grains is gonna pick up a whole lot of speed. So it's not really hitting IBO, at least by my chronograph, and this chronograph seems to be pretty accurate. Personally, with the speed difference between this and the standard RX-7, I don't know, even with that heavy arrow, it was only about 10 feet a second faster than the RX-7. You know, I would take the draw cycle and the shootability of the RX-7 personally. You know, it's just a feel thing for me. I mean, like I said, once you got used to it, I think it would be not really that big a deal with that stiffer draw cycle. For a turbo cam, it's pretty smooth. Like the Carbon Defiant turbo cam was like the hardest cam of all time. But it's still a lot stiffer than the HBX Pro cam. I'm not disappointed in those speeds. Those are all very good speeds, but I was expecting a little bit more, honestly, out of that. Still a really comfortable bow, you know. I like the features on it. So I think if you're a shorter draw guy, you know, you're definitely gonna pick up that extra 10 or 12 feet a second with this. But if you're, you know, 28, 29, 30 inches, personally, I think the RX-7 is the better bet. You know, the turbo cam, they always make it because there's just those speed freaks out there. But, you know, if it's not comfortable to shoot for you, which this bow shoots really nice. There's not a lot of hand shock or anything like that. It's a comfortable bow to shoot, not as comfortable to draw. But I've always said with speed bows, it's like, you know, I don't care how fast it's going. If you can't shoot it well, you just miss fast. So I'm gonna take shootability over speed any day personally, but that's not my job to impart my opinion on you. I'm just giving you the numbers here. You saw the numbers, so you can make your decision. It is a sweet bow. Thanks for watching today, guys. We really appreciate everything. Remember to hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up. You know, any support we get really Really helps us bring content. So we really appreciate all the support. And as usual, remember, precision is a decision. Keep them in the middle, and I'll see you on the range.